Hello all, welcome back to Data Science Spring. In our previous video, we have covered the basics of Pandas data structures. Today, we are delving into another important topic in Pandas. How to load data into Pandas DataFrame. In your data science journey, you would have to load data that is coming from different sources of data storage like CSV files, Excel sheets, JSON data coming from APIs, SQL data, etc. Pandas makes this process a breeze by providing functions to read data from various sources. Let's start with CSV, which stands for comma separated values. It's a simple and widely used format for tabular data. So let us start by importing the necessary library, which is Pandas. Let us import Pandas as PD. We can click Shift Enter to run this code. And then the data that we are going to use is taken from Kaggle. It's a daily climate time series data. I'll be providing the link to this in the description. All you need to do is click the download button here and download the data, and whichever ID that you are using. Currently I am using the Google Colab. So all I need to do is I need to import this to any folder in my drive and then click this mount drive here. So click this folder icon here and click mount drive. Now it will ask for permission. I will give connect to Google Drive. Once it is connected, you can see your drive here. So now we can use that to import this data frame, import this CSV file into a data frame. So let us create a variable here, climate time series, or let's say climate data for simplicity. So the function that we will be using for loading a CSV file in Pandas is pd.readCSV, the read CSV function. And into this function we will pass in the path to the CSV file, and we can take that path simply by going through these drives and locating our data frame, and here we can copy the path and we can just paste it here, and whichever ID that you are using, just copy the path of the file that you have saved, and then just paste that path into this pd.readCSV function, and it will load this data. And for displaying data, I have told you before, in a notebook we just need to we don't need to use the print command. We just need to just type this in here and it will automatically get printed. That's one good thing about notebooks. So we can see that it has been loaded. So that's all it takes to load a CSV file into a data frame, to make it a data frame in Pandas. So let us also check the type here. We can check type. Pick the type of this data to ensure that it is a data frame. We can print it, or we can just do this, I think. Yeah, it's a pandas.core.frame.dataFrame. So we have successfully loaded the CSV file into a data frame using Pandas pd.readCSV function. So now let us see some of the most important parameters in this readCSV function. The first one is use calls parameters. So this parameters allows you to specify which columns to read into the data frame. It can be a list of column names or indices. So sometimes you don't need to import all these columns into the data frame. So let's say we don't need this mean pressure column in this data frame. So what can we do? We can use this use calls parameters. So what we will do is we will add use calls equal to we will pass in the column names that we need here. It's an array of columns as an array of strings. So let's say we only need the first three ones. We don't need the last two ones. Now let us see. So we can see that we have only got those three columns that we have mentioned here. That's the first parameter that we can use to get only the columns that we actually require. The second one is the dtype parameter or the data type parameter. This enables you to specify the data type for specific columns. So this can be useful for optimizing the memory usage. So let us say we can see here that the the first one is the date type parameter. The second one is the second and third ones are actually numerical data, right? So we can give here d type equal to for those two. We can copy this here. This will be given as a dictionary, okay? The floating point numbers. So it has been loaded as floating point data types. So we can actually check the type of those data here. Can do a type check. Sorry. Let's select one of these columns. Let's check the type of this. We can see. Okay, of course it's a series. Okay, the first value. Let's check the type of the first value. So yeah, it can be seen as it's a float 32 data type. It's because we have mentioned it here that it should be loaded as a float 32 data type. So that's another useful parameter. The next one is the parse dates parameter. So the parse date parameter converts columns to datetime format. So since we have loaded this data as a time series data, we can see some times here, right? I mean, we can see the dates here. Let's again print this data frame. We can see that it has a column where it mentions the dates. So we can load this as a datetime format. So this is specifically useful in dealing with time series data. So let us give that parameter and let us add in this column so that it will be loaded as a datetime format. So we will give parse dates and we'll pass in the columns that we need to parse as datetime format. So we only need to pass the first column as in a datetime format. So let us also check this data type actually. Okay. Yeah, you can see that it's a timestamp. It's a time series data. So we have passed this first column as a data type, data time format, and while loading this data. So that's the third parameter, most commonly used third parameter in read CSV function. Another useful parameter is skip rows. So sometimes we'll be having some rows that is additionally added as a footer or a header row, giving some data that we don't actually need. For example, we'll be calculating the total number of we'll be adding the total of all the columns, right? Sometimes we'll be doing that in an Excel sheet, right? So we'll be adding the total of mean temperature or total of humidity. So we don't need those rows sometimes. This particular data set doesn't have that, but for example we will show it. So this particular parameter is used to remove those kind of rows that we don't need. Skip rows. So we also have skip footer parameter which can be used similarly. So let us see the example for skip rows parameter, which can be used to skip some of the rows. So let us skip rows. So inside this we will mention the rows that we need to skip, that we want to skip. So let us first note down the dates for these rows. So it is 2013 and it's January 1, 2013, right? So we'll skip these two rows and we'll see if it has actually been skipped. Let us no, we don't need the type here. Okay, actually this should not be put here. So let us add this in the end here and let us run it again. And we can see that the first three rows have been removed here. So previously we had the starting date was January 1st of 2013, but now it is January 4th of 2013. So first three rows have been removed. So that's what this is used for. So the next parameter is the number of rows. So in this n rows parameter, we can pass in specify the number of rows to read from the beginning of the file. So this is particularly useful when we are dealing with really huge data sets and we don't need to load the whole data into the data frame. So we can type in n rows here and we can just pass in a number here. Let's say we need to see the first, we only need to load the first 100 rows. So this will only load the first 100 rows in this data frame. So we can see here there are 100 rows. So these are some of the most important, the most used parameters in this read CSV function. So there are other important parameters as well. So there is not enough time to cover all of that. So you can just go to the Pandas library official or documentation, and you can see all the parameters there, and you can try out those in this data frame itself. And let me know in the comments if you need to learn additional parameters. If you need clarification on additional parameters, let me know in the comments. So now let us see how we can load data from an Excel file. Now since this is very similar to CSV files, I'll not be going into detail on the parameters for this one. And also for the following SQL and JSON ones, I will not be going into details of the parameters. So for that, first we need the data. So let us first import the data. Now I have downloaded some dummy data here, and I'll be loading those into this. So to do that, we can just drag and drop the data into here. It will be giving us a warning here. So press OK there. So the data has been loaded. So copy the path and so the data is employee data. So employee data is equal to td.read. So the command to read an Excel file into a data frame is td.read Excel. And let us pass in the path here, and that file will be loaded as a data frame here. So let us print it. So as we can see, the data has been loaded into a data frame here. So it's as simple as that. So you can actually try out some parameters here. It will be similar to the CSV ones that I have mentioned before. You can use the Pandas official documentation for that. So just search for Pandas official documentation, and here we can try out the different parameters from this website. Okay, I'll not be going into detail as it is similar to the CSV one. So next, let us see how we can load data from SQL database into a data frame. So next we will be seeing how we can load data from an SQL database into a data frame. So for this, we actually need a database. So creating a database is a time consuming task. So we'll be creating a dummy database. And for that, I have actually visited this website, and it has clearly mentioned how to create a dummy database. So for that, we need to import the SQL 3 library. So if you're using anything other than Colab, you might need to install this using pip install. So since I'm using Colab, it will be already installed. So first we'll need to run this piece of code for creating a database. Our database name will be SQL test database, and we'll be executing this query, create table products, for creating a products database, and we'll be inserting these values into the products table. So this is just creating a dummy database, okay, and we'll be committing the connection. Okay, so let's run the code. So it has successfully run. So if we check the file section, we can see here that the test database has been created. Now let us try and read this data. So we have created a products table, right? So the data is products data, and equal to the command for reading an SQL data is pd.read SQL. I'll be able to guess it already. And first thing is passing in the query. So let us pass in the query here. Select star from the table name is products, right? From products. So we are selecting all the columns, all the rows from products. That's the query. And then the next one is a connection parameter. So we have already created the connection parameter here. So SQL 3.connect test database. So we will pass in the connection parameters as well. And this is all it. So depending upon your database, this will change. Okay, the connection parameter will change, and your user access on all those things. Depending on those, the connection parameter will definitely change. So this is a dummy database we have created just to demonstrate this thing. So we can see that it has actually loaded this SQL database table into a data frame, and we can see here the product ID, the product name, and the price here. So that's all about that. So next, let us see how we can load data from a JSON file. So in some cases, you will be working with a web application, and you'll be receiving data in the form of JSON data from the APIs. So let us create a dummy data for that. Let us type in dummy JSON data.json. So, and let us add in some values here. I have made some values using ChatGPT for this. This is JSON data. This is how JSON data looks like. And let us save it. Okay, and now let us get back to our notebook, and let us type in dummy JSON data equal to pd.read. So the function to read JSON data is read JSON. Okay, as simple as that. And we'll copy the path as usual, and we'll pass in here and print and see. So as we can see, it successfully loaded the JSON data into a data frame, and we can see the columns name, age, and city that we have created here. Name, age, and city. So that's all about that. That's how we load data in JSON format into a data frame. So far we have seen how we can load data from CSV file, Excel file, SQL database, and also from JSON data. So these are some of the most popular sources of data that you will be dealing with in your data science journey. I hope you have learned something from this, and if any topic is not clarified, kindly mention that in the comment section. I will definitely make a video to clarify those topics. So that's all about today's video. If you have found this useful, kindly like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share this video with your friends. In the next video, we will see functions that we can use to explore data frames. I will see you in the next video. Until then, happy coding.